Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
Justin, you and I haven't really had a chance to talk, and we'll just jump right into division champions, Cleveland Guardians. First time as the Guardians, but 11th time in franchise history. I heard Tom Hamilton saying it on the broadcast as I was driving home that this is the 11th time since 1995. They were actually the first AL Central winners. 1994, that's when the baseball strike happened. And that was the first year of the AL Central as well. There was never deemed a winner because there was no playoffs. So that one did not count, as the White Sox were in front of that division at that time. And apropos that the Guardians take care of business in Chicago this year, first year under this name, and they are Central Division champions, youngest in baseball, average age of 26. Justin, like I said, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but just your impression of this team all season long.
I think it's been a weird but fun journey, and I mean I think we went into this season not expecting a whole lot, which makes us even better, right? Anytime you can go with no pressure. I was talking about it with you during Thursday night football. I get real impression of the 2016 Indians. They win by playing small ball. I mean, we're looking at this team right now, and top to bottom, you look at their rotation, you look at the back end on the bullpen. I mean, you look at all these different factors, and to be honest, I feel as if, yes, we're coming out of a division that's probably a little bit weaker than some of the other divisions in the AL, but in reality, we have such a young group, such a talented young group too, that it's good that these guys are kind of going into these playoffs with not a ton of pressure on their backs. I mean, no one really expects them to be here. And here we are fighting for October baseball once again. The Guardians are the most probably consistent Cleveland sports team that we have in our city. And I just don't think they get enough credit for the consistency that they put up year in and year out. I think that they're the most consistent team that we have in Cleveland. So, I mean, I'm excited. I know Kev's excited. I know Peter's excited. We're all excited for this playoff run that we're about to go on. And still, we go into this playoffs with, like I said, not a lot of pressure. We know if there's other teams out there, the Yankees, the Astros, that might be feeling a little bit more than we are. We were never supposed to be here. So the fact that we're here and we handled our division handily, it just makes for an exciting October run, and it's really giving me 2016 vibes.
Yeah, it really is giving 2016 vibes. It feels like any time Guardians or just Cleveland baseball organization overall makes a run like this, it's not expected. They do it when it's least expected, but they're doing it with a lot of young guys just getting their first taste in the major leagues too. And they don't, Peter, APJ, myself, and everybody we've had on the show since the season started, and we've been one of the shows that have tried to keep the baseball talk alive, because we know that baseball talk, even during the summer when nothing else is going on, it's not the most hot button issue. It's not the thing that everybody wants to talk about. Everybody wants to go out to the ballpark. They want to have a nice hot dog. They want to, get a adult beverage if they are of age. They want to be out there with their friends, their family, kind of just having a good time at the ballpark. And that's one of those summer activities. But we've made sure to talk about this team from a standpoint of what can this team really do? And we didn't know who they were to start the year. And Terry Francona didn't know what he had to start this year, but he was very honest with all of us. He told us, we're going to be young. You're going to see guys come up. And we've had 15 or 16 guys make their major league debut, and they've had success in the minor leagues. The Rubber Ducks, the Clippers, even the captains this year have had success in their version of minor league playoffs. Now, is the gap from AAA to the majors much different? So all those playoff experiences, you can't really call back on them too much. Sure. But this is what this organization has been building. And despite, and this is not, to take shots or anything like that, despite the payroll of this team, the front office, the coaching staff, the players, when you have a culture, and culture is a big word on Voice of the Land, people know this. When you have a culture established, it is easier to get guys to buy in. And I think it would be easier to get the younger guys to buy in. Peter, I know that you're kind of producing behind the scenes even more than usual tonight because we're doing this through Zoom, but you come in as a baseball and Ohio State person. So when we have baseball talk, you are audio is audio truly in those kind of conversations. What was the feeling like when you saw that the Guardians officially clinched the division, or were you already kind of riding that high by sweeping the White Sox, kind of knowing that it was just a matter of when, not if?
Yeah, I totally thought it was just a matter of when they were going to do it. I had no doubt that they were as we led up to this. And if we go back and dig through earlier shows, I'm pretty sure I was the one that said I thought they were going to finish above, well above 500 this year. I had a good feeling about the team. It was a question though. I was optimistic, and I'll give you that. I mean, I was basing that on pure Indian/Guardians fandom optimism that every year I think this team has the potential to do it, especially since we've had Tito. It just seems like that is something to almost be expected. And the funny thing is, you mentioned I think this is the 11th time that we've won the AL Central, and I'm sitting there going, that's it. I feel like that number should be higher because I remember 94 with the strike, and 95 and then 96 and 97 and those years, and I went to a lot of games back then when I was in college. So it's kind of like, yeah, I guess we have kind of, had some slumps, if you will, there. But the one thing is, I really, really wish I could watch more of the games. And that's the problem. I'll keep, tabs on them on my phone. If I'm driving, I'll turn on the radio and listen to the game on the radio, but I can't get Bally Sports. And I heard they're coming out with a new thing, and I don't even want to talk about the price of that because that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's a whole other, we could do a whole show on Bally Sports and the debacle that is. So
yeah, and there's a different day and time for that, but you're right, Peter. Like there's fans that have wanted to see this team that haven't been able to, and everybody will say, well, just turn on your radio at home, or turn on the stream on WTAM1100.com, which we do. Like we find ways.
Oh, yeah.
Or people will tell you about the crack streams that are out there, the somewhat could be considered illegal streams or whatever. The main site that always people would tweet at me with is at Stream East is the one. They haven't had baseball games all weekend long, so I haven't been able to do that. And sometimes that doesn't work. People with a Bally Sports login haven't been able to log in. So, it's kind of a shame that you can't kind of see it, but you feel it. And again, it's a different day and time. So we're not going to complain about pricing or streaming, whatever era we're in.
No, I'm going to bask in this championship, and might have to go get a shirt or a hat tomorrow.
You got to.
I think you do. Like, I mean, Justin, are you gonna pick up some gear? Because you see in baseball, it's a lot different than in other sports. You might see the jubilation a little similar in football, but people aren't popping bottles and things like that at every kind of stepping point. You got it in baseball where you make the playoffs. Then you win the first, if you got to play in that first round, whether it's one wild card or now 3 games of a wild card series. Then when you win the divisional round, when you win each round, there is that kind of championship level end of the road type celebration in baseball, but that's because it's such a long haul. Justin, you're going to be sporting some Guardians division champion gear.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking Peter was asking me about the hat. I got the throwback Pilots hat on right now. Big into sports memorabilia, big into rustic, retro style sport. I kind of collect it. So I might just sit on that thing buy some Guardians gear. The first year that they're the Guardians, they go out and win the AL Central. I mean, that's something that I'll probably buy and end up sitting on for a few years. Probably just let it hang in the closet for a little bit, let it collect some dust. And then when my son, back when he never knows where the Indians are because he wasn't born in the Indians era, I'm going to say, this is when the Guardians first came along, and everyone, I mean, let's be honest, throughout Cleveland, I don't think there is the idea behind the Guardians, when you take away something like a name that they've had, we're shouting "Go Tribe," and now all of a sudden we've had to kind of pivot. They want to know, what that was like. So kind of coming in and buying that AL Central gear and say, hey, this is when the tide kind of switched. This is when we first became the Guardians. It's a start of new history, whether or not we like it or not. And I think that that's something that's important, especially, with something as big of a name change, and kind of a culture shock to what we're going through right now. So I'm 100% excited we can get talking about how excited we are all day, but I think the way that this baseball team really is doing it, and I know questions from the start of the year, I think, it was always one or the other. We always either had good pitching, but, our hitting wasn't coming around. And then, it would switch from our hitting to, now our pitching isn't as stable as we once thought it was. So we've had to do it in so many ways, and it's really impressive for a younger team to be able to pivot in a situation where, there has been a lot of question marks. Kev, you're right. You mentioned the amount of roster changes we've made from pulling guys up. That's been the MO of the Indians for as long as, we can remember as fans. But the really impressive part is you expect some lapse, in terms of making a playoff run when you got a young team like this, that they've really been able to weather the storm. I'll be completely honest. I've been one of those doubters at the beginning of the year where I'm like, well, now their hitting is starting to become a little suspect, which we started to see at the start of the year. We were starting to hit well, and then, but our pitching wasn't there, and then our hitting started to drift off. And that was one of the things that I was worried about, but I'm glad to say that I was proven wrong for, what these Guardians have been able to do with such a young lineup. Kev, you mentioned it, we're the youngest in the MLB. We're not putting up gaudy, glamorous numbers. I'm pretty sure we don't even have a hitter in our lineup that's hitting over 300. And I think that to me speaks volumes, because we're doing it in multiple ways to where other teams, they just don't have that. So when you're able to win in a magnitude of ways, you're really setting yourself up. And I think that's why it gives a lot of people that 2016 vibe, is because we're doing it in such, organic ways. We're playing small ball. I mean, I was digging at stats that, like, the only stat that we truly are ahead of, in all categories, we are the lowest strikeout team in the MLB from a hitting perspective. And that's saying something. And a lot of people, I grew up playing baseball. I grew up around baseball. I studied the game in and out, and just that one statistic right there speaks volumes to what this Guardians team is doing, because they are making these teams put them away. They're putting the ball in play. They're saying, hey, listen, I know we're young, but we're going to step up to the plate. We're going to put guys in position to score, and we're going to hit the ball, and it's up to you to defend us. And I think that's been the major part for me that was probably the only eye-popping stat that really kind of spoke volumes to me. A young team like this, having the least amount of strikeouts in the MLB, is an impressive feat. And all the rest of their numbers may not be as gaudy as the others, but they are really making each team that they play earn a win, whether it's the Yankees or it's the Tigers. I mean, these guys are going out there, putting together their best ball and manufacturing runs. I know Peter talked about Tito. Tito is huge in development of this team. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit when he's on the field behind the Guardians. He is just someone who's, he's been around this game for a long time. He knows how to manufacture runs, and he's going to put you in position, to be the very best team that you can be. And I think these Guardians are, they're really kind of, an homage to him, like in his management style. So, I'm very impressed with what they've been able to do. And the fact that they're coming out with 10 games left in the season, and they're AL Central champions. I mean, it's a great start, but I really don't think this is finished. I really don't. And, like I said, I'll pound this drum all day. They're walking into this playoffs with no pressure. And a team with nothing to lose going into a playoff run, getting hot the way they are right now, coming off, 6 in a row?
Mm-hmm.
Seven now. Yeah, seven now. And they're coming in they're coming into October baseball just hot as a blowtorch. So, I mean, there's something to be said for that. It pays to get hot at the right time. And I'm just excited to see what they're going to be able to do with not a lot of pressure on their backs.
Absolutely. And we talked about it before the season. I mean, they definitely exceeded my expectations, but I said from the start, they're going to go as far as Terry Francona. Like, the advantage that they have over everybody else is having the best manager in all of baseball and one of the best managers in the history of baseball. So it is definitely a dangerous team going into the playoffs. And I'm glad to see them playing good baseball in September rather than in August. We all remember 2017 with that 22 game win streak, and that was great. And that was historical, but then they kind of faded out. They still made it to the playoffs, but they felt like they were fading through September, and that continued into October baseball. You hope that now that they're playing good baseball to finish out the season, that is what kind of continues into October.